James Cohen, and I'm a professor of ESL and bilingual education at Northern Illinois University right here in town. And my partner in crime,
J.Q. Adams, and I'm a professor emeritus from Western Illinois University.
and emeritus means retired. So anyway, we want to say thank you very much for coming out tonight in this cold, awful weather. At least it's not snowing right now. So we have a series of things that we would like to go over with you. And if you didn't pick one up, everyone should have a handout. And we have it in English, in Spanish, and in Arabic translated. So yes, we'll be using this a little bit. So what we would like to do, oh, it's an echo over here. Do you hear the echo when I'm standing over here versus when I'm standing closer? All right, so the purpose of tonight's meeting is twofold. One, to inform the community about what we are going to be doing, this needs assessment that JQ and I will be implementing this next several months. And also, to get some input from the community on some questions and topics. So for example, when we conduct the needs assessment, we have a core set of questions that we will be asking. But what we would like to get from the community tonight is some additional questions or additional topics that we might want to add to the focus groups and to the survey that we'll be sending out to the community.
Yeah, and obviously we're trying to be as inclusive as possible. Your feedback as stakeholders in this process is very, very important. So we really do appreciate you taking time in your busy lives to come out and share your experiences and your intelligence with us. So don't be shy. Everybody should have little cards. Did you pick up one? Yeah, there you go. We really do want you to use those, okay? So, you will have an opportunity to go through the presentation, to perhaps comment, or form questions to ask about some of the slides that you may see. And that's why we're here, is to get your feedback. And if you think there's something else that we need to be looking at, please tell us those, so that we can make sure we're doing as comprehensive as we can.
Okay, so the process tonight is, the first thing we'll be doing is, we have a PowerPoint that has several slides giving statistics of School District 428. And then we'll go over this handout a little bit. And then we'll elicit questions from you that you will put down on your papers, on the little index cards, so that you can hand them in to us. So any questions before we really begin? Okay, so the demographics of 428 is changing. And for the last several years, the last 4 years, as you can see, in 2012, there were 58% white in the district, and now it's 50% white. So the percentage of white students has gone down substantially, 8%. Black student population has gone up from 15 to 18%, Hispanic 21 to 26, Asians have stayed flat at 2% equal, and bi or multiracial gone up a little bit, and Pacific Islander, it's actually gone down 1 student, it's from 19 students to 18 students. So the percentage, though, is still 0%, because it's too small for, the whole population is 6,450 people, that's the whole district student body population.
We'll be looking at income and for public schools, because we don't have more exact data. What is typically used is free and reduced lunch, okay, as a means for looking at income level versus those who pay full fare, if that. situation exists in these particulars. So when you see income or low income, that's what we're referencing those students that receive full or reduced lunch, free or reduced. So in that particular case, and we see that there has been an increase from 2012 to 2016. So the district is adding more students who categorize themselves or under that category of free and reduced lunch. So that is increasing.
The graduation rates, 84% for a 4-year graduation rate, and it's 86% for the state. So that means we're not doing as well as the state is. 91% of white students are graduating within 4 years. 73% of Black, Hispanic, 74% Asian, 100% within 4 years. And again, this is compared to 86% for the state. So we have a little work to do there to make sure that we're at least averaging the same as the state is.
And obviously, for Black Hispanic students there, we want that to rise. Okay, so those are questions that we need to be asked. What can we do to ensure that there's a higher percentage of those students reaching at least 90%? Ideally, we'd like to see 100%. So obviously, there's work to do.
Our dropout rates are, and I'm saying our, because I do live in DeKalb. I do have a daughter in the school system, and I consider myself a member of the schools of District 428. So you'll hear me say our a lot, because I do take ownership of this as well, right? So I'm not just somebody from outside. Our dropout rate is actually pretty good compared to the state, 3% versus 2%. It can still improve, but we need to know that it's 3% and the state average is 2%. So that means we need to be doing something to improve our dropout, or lessen the dropout. And the English language learner population in the district has risen also. In 2012, there was, of the 6,000 students, 6,104 students, we had 8%, which were 503 students. But 4 years later, we have 6,450 students in the district. 11% of that is now 805. So we basically added 300 students, 300 English learners to our school system, which is a lot. In 4 years, that's a lot of kids that we need to now work with, that we didn't have to work with before.
So one of the measures that is important is our students college ready. This is based, I believe, on ACT scores, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
ACT of 21.
Okay. And it's really clear there that we're pretty close to actually exceed the state percentage by 1%, so that's positive. So, but again, that's less than half of the students who are college ready by that particular score, which means obviously there's work to be done to increase that. So it's a representative for all students. So this is taking a look at disciplinary actions, and we're referencing 1,582, and that would be expulsions, suspensions, referrals. I think that covers it. Yes. And of course, we don't have that broken out, but I understand software is available that can disaggregate that data, and so we'll be doing that. So we'll get a closer look at how students are being referred to within this disciplinary class. Okay. So for white students, and again, you're always going to hear me playing with these terms, because for me, these are census terms, they're social construction terms, that I don't necessarily agree with, so you always kind of see a funny thing on my face with it. I feel much more comfortable with white / ethnicity, you know, for all those categories, because I think there's just one race, and I'll leave that alone. Come to the workshops and be ready. We'll have fun, guarantee you. Okay? So I have problems with these labels, okay? So, but nonetheless, because that's where the state does it. So for white students, there are 408 incidents, which then translates to 26% of the total, that 1582. But what we look at as baselines is what percentage do white students make up of the total population of students? And as we've already talked before, it's right around that 50% mark. So white students then are underrepresented in this total. And so, once again, the question to be asked, why is that? Okay. So if you're interested in the disciplinary part of that, you may be trying to frame a question and write that on the card in terms of what we need to be asking to find that out, so that we can make sure we're investigating that, looking at that, researching that as we do our work. So black students, we see 768. So 49% of disciplinary actions have been centered on the black or African American students. And that's significant because they only make up 18% of the population. So here we see definite overrepresentation in this population. So once again, it begs for questions as to why is there so much more for a population that's less than 20%? Why do they have 49% of referrals? Okay. So that's something that we need to investigate. And it's also important to note that could be for a whole lot of different reasons. It could be cultural, it could be criteria-based, enlisted criteria for referrals. And as we disaggregate the data, we hope we'll get a better handle on it. Nationally, one of the things that has been found is that a lot of these are subjective referrals. In other words, it's something about how students act versus how teachers respond to their actions that seem to weight or skew, toward minority students. And so we see that nationally. This is not just a phenomenon that's here in DeKalb, but this is a national problem. Hispanic students, 357 incidents, so 23%, and they make up 26% of the population, so they're actually slightly underrepresented there. That's not bad. That's good. Asian students make up 2% of the population with only one incident, and we could spend a nice hour talking about why that might be the way that is. And I think you find it quite fascinating, actually. Okay, we don't have time to do that tonight. Bi or multiracial, again, that's one of those terms that I just don't even know what to do with, other than the fact that they tend to be beautiful people. So that's the best I can give you on that. So 23 incidents there, and they make up 5% of the population. So that's, again, very overrepresented. So we need to find out, again, what's happening there. Why is that so overrepresented for the size of it? And again, we see this with the American Indian population there. 20 incidents, but yet they make up less than 1%. So again, something is happening there that we need to understand. 5 incidents for Pacific Islanders. Again, that's a very small population, so I'm not quite sure how that translates.
Well, there are 18 Pacific Islanders in the district and 5 incidences. Are they often the same students? I don't know.
But that'd be worth taking a look at.
Yes.
And finding. So lots of work here to do in terms of this. But we're also going to look at this by class and gender. So here's the class part of it, again, using free, reduced, lunch. And you can see that there's obviously something happening. And it sticks out like a pickle streak. So, out of that 1,582 incidents, 1,177 of them are objected toward the free and reduced population. So that makes up 74% of the population, 74% of the incidents, but only 57% of the population. So that's definitely an area that we continue to explore and understand. Versus full pay, which only make up 26% of the incidents, and but it's 43% of the student populations underrepresented. And what would be curious there too is to disaggregate that particular by race ethnicity to see if there's something going on there. In other words, do the full pay children of color get less discipline? So that's a question I have already. So we're going to want to proceed on that concept. And by gender, once again, you can see there's definitely something going on there. Males generating, 67% of the incidents, while they're only 51% of the student population. Females generating 33% of the incidents, and 41% are still underrepresented there. And the gender stuff is very interesting because we're seeing shifts now where females are getting into more incidents that get reported, more violence that gets reported. The pipeline from school to prison now is much higher for females than it's ever been. So there's something else going on in our society. What's going on here? We'll see.
So special education enrollment, we'll start off by race, or with race, and there's 891 people who are students who are in special ed, and 52% of them are white students. And as we said earlier, 50% of the student population in the whole district is white. So actually that works out nicely. The black population also, 18%, 18%. That's what we're looking for when we have equity. Equity means that this percentage and this percentage are the same. If that's happening, then something good is going on in District 428. So as you can see, the Hispanic population, 27%, 26%, almost identical. That's good. The 18% and 52%. So we're looking, this is a positive thing here.
But that doesn't mean we're not going to look.
Right, right.
Okay, so.
Well, we don't want to just give you all doom and gloom. There's, District 428 is doing a lot of good work here. I've seen it with my own eyes, and this is an example of it. However, we also have to be thinking there is still a lot of things that can be improved, as JQ showed in the last 3 slides with the discipline issues, right? So let's continue with this. Special ed, like free and reduced lunch. This is an issue. This is one issue that we have. 30% of the students in special ed are full pay, but the full pay students make up 43%. So they're underrepresented. And then free and reduced lunch, 70%. So something is happening to offset these percentages. Again, these 2 percentages, this one and this one, should be the same, ideally.
Close.
Or close to each, yes. And then enrollment by gender, 65% of this fed population are males, but males only make 49% of the student population from the whole district. So that raises some bells, that raises some concerns, right? There's a lot of explanation that could be with this, right? Oftentimes students are put into special ed for behavioral issues. And because authority figures oftentimes don't necessarily know how to work with certain students. So that can explain some of that. But if this is a concern for you, if this is a question for you, I recommend that you write a question regarding this on your index card. We will be figuring out, we will learn as much as we can to understand what is going on here, right?
And we'll also be looking at neighboring districts, especially if we can find some similar ones in there. There are some. And state, take a look at the state rates there too. There's a possibility that it fits the trend lines for the state. We need to see. So here we have honors, and this particular district doesn't have a gifted program, but it does offer honors and AP classes. And so that's what we have to work with here. So enrolled in those honors and AP classes are 1,759 students. And again, it doesn't take the rocket scientists to see that there's some interesting things afoot here. So with that white Euro-American population, while it's only 50% of the students, they're taking 74% of those classes. Now, some of that's not surprising. Again, it's in your university time, okay? So there's definitely high expectations that are generated out of NIU from parents of who are faculty, administrators, so forth and so on, and all the allied stuff around that as well. But nonetheless, shouldn't be that drastic of a difference, okay? Especially with the Black and Hispanic population. So here we have Blacks 18% of the population, but yet students only represent 6% of the total who are accessing these courses. And we know this is vital because these courses are what helps determine what kind of post-secondary education that you can have. Okay? So this is really key. It's something that we really do pay attention to, and really hope that we can come up with some recommendation strategies and so forth that may help to increase this. But again, this is not unique. This is characteristic of many school districts across the nation. So we'll be definitely focusing, looking at within Hispanic students. We make up 26% of the student population, and yet only 13% of the students who are taking these courses. Same thing applies. We need to make sure that these students have the opportunities to take these classes, and not just to take them, but to do well in them. So that is something that we need to take a look at. And when I say that, one of the things that we'll want to do is look at the criteria. How do students get into these? Are there recommendations by counselors? Is there recommendations by other teachers? Is there a grade point average? At this point, we don't know. I don't know. You may know. I don't know. Yeah.
I'm just curious, is this only from the high school then? Yeah, question.
From the high school and the middle school.
High school.
Thank you.
Good question. Other questions? Okay, so, and then with Asian students? Okay, actually overrepresentation there, which again fits national norms, very characteristic. But again, we always have to be careful when we have these large labels. You know, what does Asian mean? There's a lot of different groups that fit under that category. Same thing with Hispanic. What does Hispanic mean? Lots of variety there. And so part of this is we're going to have to disaggregate this to see what's inside those terms, if that makes sense. So again, looking at this population by pre-reduced lunch, you can see that trend when we see these quote-unquote class characteristics seem to be the same. Okay, so definitely a over-representation in full pay and drastic under-representation for students who are receiving pre-reduced lunch. So this is a definitely social class here as it's being defined by these categories. It's something we need to investigate. By gender, pretty close, okay, here. And again, of course, this is capturing the aggregate here within gender. And pretty close to what one would expect.
Okay, so the process. We are going to, starting in January, we will be surveying a small group of people, and then also conducting 1 or 2 focus groups, just to test out the questions that we have on the survey and to test out the questions that we have on the focus group. And then, so we'll look at that data, we'll look at if the questions are actually getting to what we're looking for, and then we'll tweak the questions, or we might remove or add additional questions. Once we figure that out, then we will send out the survey to everybody. If you look on your handout, we're going to be surveying all administrators at all the buildings, at both the building and district level. We'll be surveying all district teachers. We'll be randomly selecting parents from across the district. And we will also be surveying all grades, 5, 6, 8, 10, and 12. If you go any lower than 5th grade, you're not really going to get much. So we're going to see what we can get at the 5th grade level and above. We're also going to be conducting 23 focus groups. This is like doing a whole other dissertation. Yeah, you know how that's going, right? So we'll be doing 1 focus group of selected teachers at each school, so that's 11 at each 11 schools. We'll also be doing 2 focus groups of students at the high school and at grades 10 and 12, and then 2 focus groups at Huntley and 2 at Clinton Rosette, 1 at grades 6 and 8. So we'll be doing 6 total there.
And these will be randomized. Okay, so ensure we have good reliability.
And we'll also be doing 2 focus groups of administrative support staff, which will be deans, school psychologists, etc., from across the district, and 2 focus groups of non-administrative support staff, custodians, cafeteria workers, people, and we call them SPS at the university level. What do you call them is there a term? I don't know if there's a term for that level of employee. But across the district. It's not a negative support staff, it's just another term for support staff, not a negative term by any stretch. And then also 2 focus groups of randomly selected parents from across the district. Did you want to talk about how we're going to find, or how we'll select the parents?
Well, I think we're still working on that one, actually. There's a couple different ways we could do that. But we do want to make sure that we get as inclusive a group as possible. Traditional ways were to do PTAs, but I don't like to do PTAs because we change it. I do like to do PTAs, but not just PTAs, okay? Because we're not capturing all the parents. Okay? So we want to ensure we're hearing voices that traditionally are not heard. So we've been thinking about how we can do that, okay? So I can't tell you exactly. I have some ideas, but I still want to work on that. So what we definitely want to do is make sure we give enough parents an opportunity to be able to share their experiences and insights with us.
And do you think 2 focus groups across the district for parents is sufficient?
Well, we're also going to be surveying them. The focus groups really is just to, that's a very good question. Focus group is really just to, I'm sorry?
I'm glad you think so.
Oh, no. But, so the survey is really where we're going to get the majority of the data from. The focus groups is more like a follow-up. It's to get deep. Surveys get shallow, focus groups get deep. So that's where we're going to.
But each of the schools will have the teachers surveyed. That would be a little overrepresented. And the election process.
Well, in this particular instance, we really truly want to know what the teachers are feeling. Some of our questions deal with efficacy, for example. So how high is the efficacy among teachers? Is it the same in each building? Is it the same like classification of males more? Have greater efficacy than females? So it's a group that we really want to understand in detail, comprehensive. Because they have the most contact with the children. So this is really about the children, the students. We believe in a really student-focused, research effort, driven by equity and excellence. Equity and excellence. And we believe if we do that, then we can help the board, superintendent, be able to make decisions that raise all those. And we believe equity has the capability to.
Here's the data that tells you what the breakdown, ethnicity-wise, of the teachers and the people that are in the school. So how many white teachers, how many black teachers, how many, for that are in the schools that are,
Yeah,
you can share this with.
I'm sure the superintendent's office can provide us that information.
Is that going to be included in?
Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
And some of that should be on the report cards too, so we can access that kind of data. But yes, we'll definitely be paying attention.
I was looking more to looking at from 2012 to even now, so I think it's even changed a little bit.
Yeah, you can find that on the 428 website. You just click on report card, and it should be here, teachers, I believe it should be here. Majority of this data has actually come from that website. So after we collect all the data, we're going to try to have it all transcribed and analyzed by the end of May of this coming semester. I have a full-time job, and he has other places that he's working as well. So we're going to do our darndest to get the report written by the end of May, and we will present the report to the board at that time with our findings. And then in the fall of 2017, we're going to gather teachers and administrators and write the diversity plan.
What about the students?
And some students, sorry, and some students to write the diversity plan. If you look on this page, the mission statement, there's actually where it says District 428 will, if you go 1, 2, 3, 4 down, 4 bullet points down, close to the bottom, develop, communicate, and implement a plan to address diversity. So what we're going to be doing is actually following what the mission statement of 428 is, and that is creating a diversity plan. JQ and I will be guiding it. We won't be writing it. The teachers and administrators and students will be writing it. And there's a reason behind that. When Jenny originally asked me to write a diversity plan, I said, yeah, I can write a diversity plan, that wouldn't be a problem. But when I'm done with it, it's gonna go on the superintendent's shelf and no one's gonna read it, no one's gonna do anything with it, and no teachers or administrators or anybody will have any kind of buy-in with it. So instead, what I said, it's better we need to have empirical data supporting the diversity plan. And that's the purpose of the needs assessment. So this needs assessment is really providing us guidance with the data and empirical evidence to point us in the direction of what we need to include in the diversity plan. And then, so then I invited JQ to join me because I can't do this on my own. And so the two of us will be guiding the diversity plan team in writing the diversity plan itself. That will be also presented to the board. And then JQ and I will be doing follow-up professional development based on the diversity plan. And that professional development, working with the school board, administrators, teachers, to create more of an an equitable education experience in our school. After several months, maybe even a year of doing the professional development, we will again survey the community to find out what the climate is, if indeed the climate has changed at all. when I was an undergrad at UW-Madison, one of my professors said, you should always ask the question at the end of the class, what did you learn today? Did you learn anything from today's class? And he said it's the hardest question any teacher can ask. And actually, I agree, it is, and I oftentimes will ask my students, what did you get out of today's class? Because did we waste this last 3 hours, or did we waste this whatever? This will be the hard question for JQ and me, this, to resurvey the district for the climate. Because if the professional development and writing the diversity plan, doing all the professional development, if the survey says nothing's changed, then we, spinning our wheels. That's what we're doing. So we really JQ and I really have a vested interest in making a difference in our district. Do you want to add anything, JQ?
That covers it. And, I've been doing this work for a long time, and it's I can tell you so many different stories about this. I'll give you one just because it plays off the things. I did some work with a school district in the far eastern part of Illinois, and they were dealing with a large issue of what we call ethnic succession. Shortcut for that is called white flights. Okay? And it was fascinating to see the demographic changes, how fast they changed, and so forth. And so when we did the study and presented the information, they claimed that we cooked the data. It was one of the more interesting experiences I've ever had in my life. And it's like, first of all, why would we do that? So it's your data. All we're doing is helping you see yourself. And sometimes people don't like to see what they are, what they have done. But don't blame the investigators. All we're doing is collecting the data, creating a way for you to look at it and to process it, and hopefully as a means to, again, develop policies and procedures that lead to greater equity and excellence in the district. So that's what our purpose is. We want to ask the good, hard questions so that we can get the information, so that we can help the board, the superintendent, their staff, and the teachers, and principals, to be able to do the very best for each and every child in this district.
My question is, since there's going to be a focus group in every school, how much time are you going to be pulling the teachers out of the classroom for teaching? Personally, I see them being pulled out for this meeting and that meeting.
Without a single doubt.
So
we're going to work really hard not to be as least disruptive as we can. So my preference would be that we do it after school, before school, maybe even on the weekends. One of the things that we want to do first of all, and I know exactly what you're going to say. But this is one of the reasons why we wanted to speak with the union and to make sure that they were very clear on what our intent was, and their feedback to us was extremely positive. And so we got to work together to figure out how to do this in a way that's least restrictive to your concerns, because we know how valuable your time is in the classroom. We know how much that time is taken up by a whole myriad of things. So we do not want to complicate that part. But at the same time, we know how important getting the data is going to be. So we will be working with the principal, working with the superintendent's office, so that we can do this in the least restrictive ways. So we're sharing concern.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So,
Excuse me, I have a question. I was just wondering, that it's the district's data or it's the community's data, but in fact, the data collection is shaped by your research design here. So in some ways, your research design is kind of determining what data will be looked at.
oh, sure.
And from a research perspective, I'm just wondering if there's this higher incidence among poor and minority students in terms of these disciplinary actions as demonstrated this evening. Should they not be overrepresented in any sample that you take?
Well,
In order to be sure we're getting the information from the people most affected by issues?
yeah, we've actually had that kind of discussion already.
Have you?
And, yeah, we really have. And so we're looking at tweaking what we originally presented in terms of how the focus groups are going to play out. And so we may indeed actually do exactly what you're saying. Because obviously there is something going on there. And we need to make sure that we're understanding.
Yeah, well, that's really, that's the fun, because it's clear there's something.
Yeah, that's
going on.
absolutely.
And this is an excellent opportunity to get some input from those people most affected by that, about what their perception of the problem is.
So our process
And then the
is
decision.
not set in stone. And this is why we invited you to come, because we're going to be making in-course guidance changes, okay? To make sure we take advantage of this opportunity the best way we can. So excellent.
Any other questions on that? So the needs assessment, as I have here really quickly, it helps us understand a deeper understanding of the community. It provides voice, like you're doing now, to all community members, provides a baseline of data, and helps set priorities and determine criteria for solutions. So last spring, in the DeKalb High School, the incident that happened at the high school really is what started a lot of this discussion. Jenny called me probably within, I don't know, 2 or 3 days after the incident, asking giving advice. And she already knew what needed to be done, but she just wanted to hear what I had to say. The point is, there are issues going on in the community, and we need to find out what they are. Just as an example, this didn't happen in DeKalb, it happened in a neighbor district. But a friend of mine from another,
Actually, a district across the state, so it's not like it's,
well,
neighbor sounds like next
it's not next door, it's a few districts, so it's a little way. Anyway, a friend of mine from another district.
That's how rumors get started.
Yeah, that's how-
No, we started no rumors.
Not Sycamore. Not Sycamore.
Right.
All right. So a friend of mine from another district says, he calls me up and says, James, I just want to give you a heads up. I'm going to be sending you an email. And I said, okay. And he says, it was right after the snow, the first snow we had a week ago. And it was middle school, some kids were playing out in the snow, and they started building a wall. And they started yelling, no Mexicans, no Mexicans. And then the sixth grader, the same school, same day, was taking kids' backpacks in the cafeteria and building a wall in the cafeteria, saying, we need to keep those Mexicans out. And he's yelling this in the cafeteria during lunch with the students' backpacks. The concept of trickle-down economic theory is a fallacy, but the concept of social trickle-down theory is 100% true. What happens up here, it funnels down into our schools. And the last thing we need is for our kids to feel unsafe, no matter who they are. And the needs assessment is going to help us understand who feels safe and who doesn't. And if the kids or teachers or whoever don't feel safe, that is going to have to be addressed in the diversity plan. That is the kind of information we're going to be looking for. Do people feel safe? Do they feel bullied? Do they feel like they're being heard? These are the types of questions we're going to be getting with this needs assessment. And then with those issues that we learn, with the empirical data that we learn, that we gather, we will be able to write the diversity plan. The diversity plan will help guide us as a district what direction we need to go, what actions we need to take. and the process. Some diversity plans are just 1 page. Other diversity plans are 14 pages. It depends on what the diversity plan team wants to write. So we will guide, but it's up to the DeKalb community. Any questions so far? Yes, ma'am.
Do you have a backup plan for, I don't wanna say failed focus group, but, teachers, if you're gonna ask them to come on the weekends and it's not mandatory, how will you get parents to come out? Because I would say we're pretty underrepresented now, so do you have, and I don't mean this, I don't think parents need an incentive, but do you have one, or do you have an idea of how to actually get that?
That's a very good question. I think what we're gonna do is brainstorm with the superintendent's office to be able to get, each focus group is gonna have anywhere from 7 to 10 people.
Okay.
So, we'll brainstorm with the superintendent's office to see how to get the largest numbers. Yes?
I was gonna say, in our school, where yours, whenever we offer food.
I know.
No, I'm
Yeah,
very
I know.
serious.
Yeah.
I'm very
Trust me,
serious. So when
food
you
is
offer
magic.
food, and if you
Food is
offer a childcare aspect,
Yes,
you will get your groups there.
yes, yes, yes.
Yes, and the district has been very helpful in terms of providing those kind of services and I trust it will continue to do so. And if need be, one of the reasons why we're meeting here instead is because we want folks to feel comfortable. There are people with histories in our schools that don't feel comfortable going, and certainly don't feel comfortable talking. So we recognize that. And so we will be seeking sites off school property, so to speak, so that access for inclusion is possible. We'll do best we can.
And then we've also wrote on here, why follow up professional development? So after the needs assessment, after the diversity plan, we will be conducting the professional development. Amy Crook told us that only 30 teachers have the ESL endorsement in all of District 428. I know there's a cohort going on right now, which we are going to have another 28 added to that, which is wonderful, but it's still not enough. So when you have 11% of the student body are English learners, meaning they're learning English as their second or third or fourth language, all teachers need to have the ESL endorsement. So we'll figure out ways of advocating for that. Plus all staff, administrators, to teachers, auxiliary staff need to understand how to work more effectively and efficiently with cultural and linguistic and marginalized students. And that's what the professional development will be covering. And then, of course, like I said earlier, the follow-up survey. We want to know if we have been spinning our wheels this year and a half or 2 years, or if we actually were able to make a difference. And we're going to ask that hard question: did we make a difference? So, your role. What questions do you feel we need to be asking? So all of you should have a card, and if you can all fill out a card with questions or topics that you feel we should be addressing, that would be wonderful.
And you may need more than one card, of course. So,
Yeah, don't limit yourself to one card.
don't limit yourself to one card. Also, there was a sign sheet that should be circulating around.
I got it.
Please make sure that you sign in, and if you want to keep in touch with us, please add your email address or physical address. Jenny came up with a wonderful idea of having monthly updates, okay, via the media, okay, which I think is a great idea. We definitely want to be as transparent as possible, and again, we want your inclusion in this process. So, please help.
So do you have any questions for us before we end our meeting? Yes, ma'am.
Is outside the scope of this process that we've been addressing recruiting diverse staff and keeping diverse staff with the outside edge?
No, that's definitely part of it. Absolutely, that's part of this process.
And that's something that we hope emerges out of the focus groups and so forth. And we'll see what that feeling is. There are specific questions on the survey that deal with representation in academies and administration.
And then to piggyback on that, do you see implications for the greater community of the hub? Because we have a very diverse demographics in town, but we don't have the infrastructure to support that diverse group. There's not the transportation piece of, I was
Yeah,
hoping.
it's hard.
It's a survey.
So I know the city is planning on offering some cultural sensitivity trainings for the city workers, the city employees, all 250 of them. But I believe they're still in budget talks about that. The mayor was here last Thursday. So he said that you're talking about how to fund it, but they haven't any plans.
And then our services, just don't support those.
And service, yeah, our services don't.
And that becomes one of the real issues, especially for smaller communities. Is how do you attract diversity? In terms of administrators, teachers, staff, and so forth. And again, problem is nationwide. And one of the reasons is that there were just low yields of those positions. We're not producing enough teachers of color, teachers that have multiple language experiences, not enough administrators. So it's hard to attract folks, especially when you're off the path. Because you guys think you're off the path. Okay, that's really off the path. But that's that struggle that we have to attract good quality professionals and work in our communities. Then what do you have in the communities that hold those?
And that's what
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, so hopefully that's something collectively we can create goals and initiatives and I'll check these out.
When your families are marginalized and schools are also marginalized.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's all of there.
I didn't know. The address on here, RSV North Corner.
Yes. Well, if you don't have an email address, we'll definitely take your physical address and we won't be knocking.
Any other questions or comments or concerns?
If there is a parent who wants to participate in focus group, I know it's randomized, but is there if you happen to run short, you have like an on-call volunteer list, if they wanted to participate, they could?
Sure. Absolutely. Absolutely. And you can say that on the card.
Gotcha.
Yeah. If that's you.
That's common.
So, before we let you go, I just want to say thank you. And this whole process can only be as successful as we get input from the community. So we're gonna, like JQ said, we're gonna be as transparent. We're gonna try to be as transparent as possible. We're gonna go on the radio once a month and talk with somebody on the radio. I don't know the guy's name, Steve or something? Terry, I'm sorry, no, what? Terry. And we're gonna be giving updates on what we have been able to accomplish each month. So, yes,
Is there social media for what's going on? Just from a younger perspective.
sure. Jenny's saying that we can do that, so I guess we can do that.
And it'd probably be helpful to turn comments off, but.
Now I'm scared.
Yeah. So, thank you so much.
Again, thank you for coming out this evening. This is our one class. That's how we start.